be hosting today's webinar for us. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Josh. And before I do so, you may have noticed when you've been joining in, there is a chat box. If you guys could just list who's on the call today, sometimes we have leasing offices joining together. So if you could just put all team members who are in that chat box inside there, that'd be great. But Josh, you should have presentation control now.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh. I'm going to go ahead and get the presentation started then. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to be going over how to be a renewal master. All right, so first I'm going to start with the renewal policy. We did change a couple of things that will be updated in the 2020 TRN policies and procedures. So first, renewals. So the assistant community manager and community manager is responsible for overseeing the renewal process. And renewal details in the mail file will be sent out via email. All follow-up and communication should be recorded within the renewal log. And I do have a presentation for that as well, so I'll show you that here in just a little bit. And for the renewal approval overview, so renewal offers are generated 120 days in advance and distributed on a monthly basis. The TRN pricing manager, who is Kelsey, and regional manager, so Aaron or Emily, will review and approve all renewal offers. After renewal offers have been approved, the TRN manager will distribute the LRO renewal details and LRO files to each property. When you do receive the approval renewals, cross-check the LRO renewal summary and Yardi resident lease expiration report to ensure all renewals are included. Just every now and then, you might have someone that has been missed. It could be maybe they were on a month-to-month lease. A lot of times it's when they do a short-term lease, like a 3-month lease. So just check that just to make sure that no one's missed. Confirm that residents on the Yardi report match the LRO report. Confirm the actual rent in the Yardi report matches the current LRO report for each renewal. If a resident is included in the Yardi report but is not in the LRO report, check the current lease and the lease end date in Yardi to make sure they are correct. If you find an error in the resident history, submit a help desk ticket to correct the dates and contact the TRN pricing manager to make sure the error is corrected and the renewal offer is generated. Letters and communication. All renewal letters must be generated using TRM renewal letter template. Residents must receive 2 notifications when sending renewal offer. These offers can be sent via mail, email, and door delivery. So whatever works best for your community. All renewal letters and approved LRO pricing matrix must be uploaded to the resident's profile in Yardi as an attachment. There must be weekly follow-up on all pending renewals. Follow-up should be completed via email, phone, letter, and door knock. Notes must be made in the renewal log located within box. And continued, for rates, new renewal offers generated following the 30 days will be good for 48 hours. Leases must be signed within 72 hours following that commitment. So when they do let us know they want to renew, we just need to make sure that they are committing and signing that lease within 72 hours. So Blue Moon be checked daily just to ensure that we are following the 72-hour commitment. Short-term leases, which are 6 months or less, that are not in effect at the time renewals are approved, will not be included in the monthly distribution of approved renewals. Make a note to follow up with the TRN pricing manager once the lease has started so they can pull the renewal offer In addition, if a short-term lease is highlighted in yellow in the LRO renewal summary, the resident can be offered the current move-in rate. So when Kelsey does send you that renewal summary, just make sure that you're checking to see who's highlighted in yellow. That way you can give them the move-in rate. Also note, LRO rates change daily and may change in LRO when the next batch of renewals are pulled. Therefore, only use the renewal files distributed to your property unless the offer on the original renewal invitation has expired. So here's an example of the renewal letter that everyone should be using now. So the TRM renewal letter is available in Box. All renewal letters must be generated using the TRM renewal letter. This letter outlines all lease terms available for the resident. Letters should be sent out to renewals on a monthly basis. Letters should be sent to residents within 1 week of receipt of approved rates. For me, it's easier to do as soon as I do get that email, do the mail merge, and get those sent out same day. For non-renewals are determined by complaints and payment history. If a resident has more than 3 late payments and or 2 or more non-sufficient funds, NSF payments, in a lease term, a non-renewal letter must be sent a minimum of 60 days prior to the lease expiration. So right here, which this is something that's actually really helpful for us here at the Bradford, we have a thinking of moving flyer. So what this flyer does, it goes over the cost if someone were to move out. So the grand total would be $1,900. It goes over application and admin fees, new security deposits, if there are pet deposits or fees at your community, utilities, the cost of renting a moving truck, if you want to redecorate your home, cleaning and carpet cleaning. And we give this when we distribute that renewal letter invitation. So this is something that's very helpful for us. And we do get a lot of feedback with people coming back in, just letting us know that they were glad that they did receive this letter because they didn't put 2 and 2 together. So just make sure, if your community doesn't have this flyer, just to create something, just because this is something that does help us out. For the renewal log tracker, so this is going to be an example of us here at the Bradford at Easton in our renewals. So you're going to see that we do have them highlighted. We have a little cheat sheet at the bottom so we know if it's a notice to vacate, when we send a lease out to someone, when their lease has been signed, when we renew them in Yardi, month to month, and then the transfer. So the renewal log tracker will now be based on a summary Excel tab that has historically been sent every month. The TRM Pricing Manager will add this tab in the Excel spreadsheet located within Box, so we no longer have to plug this into the renewal log tracker. You'll see it once we get those renewals sent out to us. Ensure you are leaving detailed notes for each follow-up. Once completed, you will need to date and initial off on the follow-up. So this is important because, if Micah had followed up with someone, he's not here, resident comes in, you will always want to quote whatever conversation Micah had with that person. So maybe it was just a phone call, leaving a voicemail, or you emailed, or maybe we sent pricing about a transfer or a different apartment. So we can always refer back to these notes. And this just kind of covers our butts too. So one big topic that all of us, have to deal with is overcoming the 13 most common objections at renewal time. So this is a list that I came up with that I found online, and this is pretty accurate. So number 1, my neighbor is paying less than I am. 2, I've been a loyal resident for X amount of years. How can you do this to a good resident? 3, the apartments across the street are less expensive. 4, the rates in this letter just aren't fair. 5, I just can't afford these rates. 6, you're raising my rent, but you're not giving me anything extra in return. No new services, nothing new added to the community. 7, I've seen your ads. You're offering new people this amount in rent. Why can't I get the same? Number 8, first my apartment wasn't. I moved in. You thanked me by paying this amount for another 12 months, or could be any other generic service complaint. 9, I've had to live through construction or renovations in the mess for at least 6 months. 10, why do I have to pay so much for a short-term lease? 11, when I moved in, I got blank. Why is this price so high now? 12, I'm unhappy with the rent increase you're asking me to pay. When I asked the leasing professional to consider decreasing it, she told me that LRO won't let you change it. What is LRO? 13, I don't care about your explanations. I don't agree, and I want to speak to corporate about this. Or maybe I want to talk to your manager about this. So always remember, So always remember, if we spend time thinking about how to answer each of these, then we'll be more prepared and more professional in our responses. That will in return improve our success. As you think about how you might or have answered each of these, maybe in the past, keep the following in mind. Recognize this, quote, pre-work will make renewal conversations better, but not easier. Fairness is in the eye of the beholder, but it does mean fairness to you as the operating company as much as to the resident. Housing has a social contract component. Resist taking on the resident's emotional state and their attempts to make it personal. Find your own voice. So how to respond and what to say to these. So how to respond? Express understanding and empathy. Acknowledge the resident's feedback as potentially correct. Explain the variables that contribute to price differences for each apartment. The variables may include apartment type, feature, floor plan premiums, view premiums, timing, and lease conditions. Explore the causes in a non-defensive and positive tone. Don't discuss or confirm what other residents are paying for their apartment. And what to say. I understand why you would question the rate difference. May I explain the variables that cause the differences to occur? Your observation could be correct. It isn't unusual that similar apartments are priced differently. Rates constantly fluctuate. At move-in, your neighbor may have leased at a lower rate or received a move-in concession based on market conditions at that time. If a shorter or longer lease term is selected, the rates will be different. Location and interior amenities also create price differences. For example, a balcony or a view will increase the apartment's value and the rate will be higher. The variables create a wide array of prices for similar apartment types. Does this make sense? To protect the privacy of our residents, we don't discuss what others are paying or why. So for some outreach ideas to get these residents to renew, so I always like a personal phone call. We would love for you to stay another year, always mention their name. Email follow-up, a Rent Cafe e-blast, a mobile doorman notification with the cost of moving flyer, maybe just as a reminder. A renewal private party event. So you could host a private party for everyone that is up for renewal, maybe that hasn't signed their lease yet, or maybe they have signed their lease and you want to treat them to maybe a wine tasting with some cheese, or a beer tasting, whatever your demographic does like. I also like a handwritten letter signed by office and maintenance team. These residents know us on, every day they come in, they put in work orders. So I think having a handwritten letter does mean a lot to these residents. Some examples. So for week 1, of course, you send out the renewal invitation letter. Week 2, phone call and email follow-up. Week 3, a mobile doorman and renewal private party event. In week 4, a phone call and email follow-up. Week 5, a 60-day notice reminder, just to remind them that, hey, you're coming up on your 60-day notice and we haven't heard back. Week 6, a renewal flyer to door and phone call. In week 7, phone call and email follow-up. So these are all just examples. I do like to have phone call and email follow-up every other week at least. Here that works at the Bradford at Easton is phone call follow-up. We get a lot more residents telling us verbally over the phone, you know, which lease term they would like to renew at. And that's all I have for the renewal, how to be a renewal master. So we're going to open up the phones, and if anyone has any questions, please let us know.
Thanks, Josh. That was awesome. So I do have a couple things to add. Josh showed our mail merge letter for your renewal, that letter you sent out with the quoted rates. If you guys are unfamiliar on how to create a mail merge, we do have a mail merge how-to video out there. So please feel free to reach out. I can provide that to you if you don't have access. It's located in box as well. We also have a cost of moving flyer that Josh showed here on today's webinar. We have one of those flyers for every community, which is also located in box. So if you are unfamiliar with where that's located, again, feel free to reach out. Happy to show you where it's at. And so, yeah, I would love to open up the phone lines. If you guys have other ideas or things that have worked for you on site to really capture renewals early, we know that once we capture them earlier, that obviously helps our retention. So we're not trying to scramble last minute to get that signed renewal in. We would love to hear your input. So like I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. If you don't have anything to add, feel free to put in the chat box again who's been on today's webinar, if you did not do so already. That way you can get credit for joining us today. But phone lines are unmuted, so feel free to share any input that you have, or if you have any questions for Josh.
Hey everyone, it's Kelsey. Hopefully you can hear me.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hi, okay, good. I actually am unmuted. Josh, great job. I think that was super helpful. There was just one thing that I did want to clarify. When I send out the renewal summary and you see the highlighted yellow line that says exception, what this means is that if that offer expires after 30 days and the resident needs a new offer pulled, you need to reach out to me for that offer. And the reason for that is, yes, it's true that sometimes we are offering those exceptions the move-in rate, but other times I'm manually adjusting those offers for different reasons. An example would be if someone was on a 12-month lease and then signed a 2-month lease in between and then wanted to sign another long-term lease, LRO would automatically offer that person the move-in rate because they had just been on a 2-month lease. But what I might do is go back to their previous rate when they were on a 12-month lease and make sure that that rate wasn't higher than the move-in rate, because I don't want their new long-term rent to be, let's say, $100 less than what they were previously paying. So it's kind of just avoiding the potential for someone to end up like having lower rent because they had a short-term lease in the middle of their long-term leases. So point being, if you see an exception in your renewal tracker, just make sure to reach out to me if that offer expires. And let me know if anyone has any questions on that.
That was perfect. Thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Kelsey. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on renewals?
Yeah, it's Emily. Great job, Josh. Sorry, I'm like sitting here staring at him while he's doing this. So he did a great job. But yeah, I just also wanted to add to the renewal log, at least for my sites and for me and how important it is, those notes are everything. And then keeping that like key at the bottom pretty simplified makes it a lot easier. Just the notice to vacate, renewed, month to month, and then if you've sent the lease versus, you know, whether or not once it's executed it goes to green. It's just the more simplified it is, the easier it is when people who aren't on your site are going into that box note to identify with those pending renewals. So that was my only note.
Helpful. Thanks, Emily. Any other questions or comments? A lot of great insight. So thanks everyone so far who have contributed. It was great.
Okay, this is Kelsey again. I'm going to say one more quick thing, if that's okay, not to dominate this Q&A session. But one other thing that I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of is when a resident is on a month-to-month lease and wants to see their updated long-term renewal terms, make sure that you're reaching out to me for those, and I can run those for you. I'm also starting to track the month-to-month residents that are at every site, and I'm keeping a record of those in a log. So I'll be sending those out to you when it's time for a month-to-month resident to have updated rates. So you can either reach out to me if they're looking for those rates sooner, or if not, I'll be tracking it and sending them to you when they're ready. But just want to make sure everyone knew to reach out to me when the resident needs the long-term rates instead of pulling them from LRO themselves. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Hi everyone, this is Gabby. So, Josh, awesome job. The only thing I had to add was about the outreach ideas. Josh gave a lot of good ideas of different things you can do to reach out to residents. I think something I wanted to highlight, it's super important, and at least we found here at Bradford, to find out what outreach ideas work best for your community. For the past couple months, we've been doing Rent Cafe e-blasts, and we just found like we weren't getting a lot of responses from people. It wasn't working very well. So at Bradford, we started just doing more personalized outreach. So phone calls, emailing residents, we found out that worked a lot better. So
yeah, and I agree with Gabby, and to piggyback on that too, we have found that our renewal closeout has kind of fallen, it's not as aggressive as it used to be, maybe. I don't know. I mean, we're just looking at the historics of how many we still have pending. So I do think it's really important to maybe personalize it. Pick up the phone, where an e-blast can be great at some point. Maybe if you have that one pesky person that's not getting back to you and you've tried everything. But I think it's really important to really get on the phone with the outstanding renewals and find out what's going on. Just make sure you're paying attention to that. Sometimes send out a renewal kind of mind. So just make sure you're going into that log every single day and you're looking to see who is outstanding. And like she said, figure out what works for your property. But really, I think picking up the phone and personalizing it makes it a little harder for people to ignore you.
Yep. Hi, this is Tiffany. I'll speak. One of my things, and I think at Optima we've been pretty successful with our resident retention. And one of the things that I usually like to try to do is kind of going to the personalization, is I actually like to get ahead of when the renewal letters actually go out. So, in Yardi you can see the projection ahead of time, and sometimes you can see some of those people that are, going to be on the verge of getting their letters. And one of the things I like to do is, we have a smaller property, obviously, so I come into contact with a lot more of the residents, and I have the opportunity, hey, guess what? Your renewal's coming up. I put the bug in their ear before they even get the letter, and I kind of feel them out that way. You can kind of just get a sense from somebody, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. My job might be transferring me, or, I don't know what's happening with this. Just kind of getting a sense ahead of time of where they're at really makes a difference, because then I kind of have a gauge of, hey, I have an idea that this person, this many people may not be renewing. And I'm very proactive with kind of sharing that information with Kelsey, Sarah, and Grish, because they're technically my regionals, and we kind of come up with a plan ahead of time. And it's one of the things that I feel some people don't do enough is sometimes, reach out and see, hey, I know we might have potentially 5 or 6 one-bedrooms on the verge of giving notice. Let's see if there's something we could do to try to retain some of these people. So I think that that's always been very successful, and that helps. And I would probably encourage people, don't be afraid to see if there's something you can do for people. Sometimes there is. And just that sense of just feeling like you're helping them makes them feel valued, and that's just enough to maybe get some of those people that are on the fence about possibly renewing to renew. That's what I got.
I like it. That's great. That's great feedback. This is JE. So I was actually having a conversation last week with, if you guys know Lisa Trozine, she just did that awesome telephone presentation for us on Friday. And we were actually talking about renewals. And so one of the things that we were talking about, and I used to actually do this when I was on site, when it comes to that personalization piece that you guys are mentioning, which is awesome, but looking at what we're doing for our renewals when it comes to renewal time. And so we talked about hosting like renewal parties. So again, that was something that we used to do at Water Chase. We did it at PSJ as well. And those were really successful for those communities. Like Gabby mentioned though, it may not work for your community, but it's really figuring out what can work. And so, you know, we looked at hosting, you know, quarterly parties where they got, you know, it was like a lock-in rate, right? And work with Kelsey on something like that. But we also had our vendors come in, or our business partners. So you guys have AT&T, or a lot of us have AT&T, and so they would sponsor a lot of that event for us. We had other business partners come in and sponsor too, so we could really make it a nice event for those residents in that quarter that their leases were expiring. So they felt like they were getting something special. We did drawings as well for prizes and gifts if they came to that party. So it would be, you know, things for their home. It could be from, you know, vacuums to if there were some upgrade features that we could do in their home for them. So it, like I said, brought that value for them a little bit more than just us phoning them or emailing them. And like I said, that was something that's really big when it comes to that personalization piece, when it comes to renewals that, like I mentioned, Lisa and I were just talking about last week. So, you know, something else to look at when it comes to ideas is putting that party out there, or, you know, individual reaching out for them. So, but this has been great feedback so far. Anyone else have any ideas to add?
Hey, it's Megan.
Hi, Megan.
I know that for me and our property here, we have a lot of people that get packages every single day, and so we're in the renewal book quite often, so kind of remember who's coming up for renewal, and whenever they come in for packages, you have that. If they're, you know, one of those people, I always try and ask them since they're just like right there, and just kind of see like if they're not sure, why they're not sure, or what's going on, or if we can do anything for them. So I know that that's been pretty helpful for us here.
Great. Well, these are a lot of great ideas. Thank you, everybody that shared. Josh, thank you for this amazing presentation. Kelsey, Emily, thank you so much for that extra feedback insight as well. So again, thank you everyone for joining. If you do need some additional resources, like I mentioned already, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to point out where they're at. Kelsey's also available. She can help in these areas with our letters and our mail merges. But again, great job to all, and thanks for joining today on Trilogy's Training Thursdays. Have a great rest of your Thursday, all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good job, Josh.